This is our last refresh message for this week. I'm Pastor Steve Green. Our subject is fear and desire. Today is Saturday, June 13th. We've been speaking about a particular responsibility that God has given to all of us. It's not just a responsibility, it's an empowerment. It's a divine enablement. We're authorized, we're commissioned to do it. It's an instruction, and it's also the power of God to do that instruction, and that's to love one another. It is, in fact, the opposite of legalism. Some, again, are confused on the matter. They think if we're being told to do anything, to not do anything, then by definition that is legalism. But this empowerment, this instruction, is the only way we have to live on a higher level than just our own human effort. It is as we mentioned, it is the divine empowerment to love one another. Paul put it like this in Galatians 5 and verse 6. The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. So it's not an act of the flesh. It's not an act of mere human effort. It is not an act of law. It is an act of faith to love one another. It's trust in the Word of God. It is empowered by the grace of God. The only thing that counts ultimately in this life. What a profound statement. Again, we're just taking the entire New Testament and distilling it down to simple, plain, repeated thoughts. The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. By this, we have this divine empowerment with clear definition. In other words, it's not foggy or fuzzy or just up to how I feel or what I think or what day of the week it is or how I feel on that day of the week. We have clear scriptural definition what it means to love one another. Again, 1 John 5 and verse 2, by this we know that we love the children of God when we love God and keep His commandments. So our responsibility is defined. It's defined by everything the New Testament has to say. Specifically, plainly, literally to us. Therefore, we have a clear boundary. And we've been speaking about boundaries, and that's really our theme. Boundaries is our theme. It is about it's a key to living a godly and healthy, or a key to having godly and healthy relationships. So we're talking about boundaries, but really the only true way to come at the subject of boundaries is, first of all, with the gospel in mind. First of all, with this responsibility in mind, because it is with this New Testament responsibility that I now have a definition for what my responsibility is. If I don't have the New Testament, if I don't have the gospel, then I'm just making up my own area of responsibility, and some of the things might be good, others may not be appropriate, but whatever, it's just my own imagination. But the New Testament will define it for me, and that gives me clear definition. It gives me boundaries. It defines what's mine and what belongs to somebody else. I have this responsibility to love. Everybody else also has this very same responsibility to love. Now, many people don't know it. Many people have not entered into the kingdom yet, and yet it still remains true that is the responsibility of every man, woman, and child. And so now that I understand my responsibility, I can understand how anybody I'm in relationship with is like a neighbor. And physically speaking, if we have a neighbor, if I own property, if my neighbor owns the adjacent property, then there's a clear line, a clear boundary line between us, distinguishing what's mine and what's theirs. And so there's four things, and I'll just mention them very quickly again, that become important when we have a boundary line or mutual responsibility. Number one is other people are not to interfere with my area of responsibility. This often happens. It's normal, every day, as common as breathing. It's just what people do. It's about people having desires and just wanting, for whatever reason, could be a range of different reasons, just wanting to have some degree of control in order to manipulate or to force other people to do as they please. It could be in overt ways, it could be subtle ways, many different ways of doing it. But people can only interfere with us to the degree that we're willing to permit them. And that's so imperative imperative that we understand we have the power here. And the reason why I would permit somebody to interfere usually is because of fear, and we've listed different fears. So that's number one. Other people are not to interfere with me. Also, I'm not to interfere with them. Now, when things go wrong in our area of responsibility, we take responsibility. We become accountable. We don't defend ourselves. We don't shift blame. We don't make excuses. We just simply accept the fact that was my area of responsibility. Something went wrong. I need to deal with it. And also the fourth point then is that if other people in their areas of responsibility are having trouble and they wish to blame you for it, you can still be kind to them, you can still love them. In fact, that is your responsibility. However, it is not your place to take the blame for what is their responsibility. So becoming good at this, becoming attuned to it, becoming trained in it, becoming alert to precisely what mutual responsibilities are, who has what, where the boundary lines are, is a key to being very successful in relationships. Again, I want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time spent with us, that this is important to you. It's important to me. I believe it's important to God, and we appreciate your fellowship and companionship in the gospel. Thank you for being with us.